Good evening, everybody. My name is Sheila, and I'm a compulsive overeater. I weigh and measure 3 meals a day off the Cambridge Gray Sheet. I write them down, I commit them to my sponsor, and I don't eat in between meals no matter what. Abstinence is the most important thing in my life without exception. If you bear with me, I am going to share my screen and show you all some pictures. I finally figured out how to do this. Okay, can everybody see them? Yep. Okay. So I'm going to start with this picture right here, which is my family of origin. These are this is my family of origin. That's my mother and father. And yes, we do look a little different from the typical American. My parents were born and raised in India, and this guy was born in India, and this one was almost born in India, but sort of born en route. But then my sister and I were born in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And there I was. I don't know, 5 or 6. And to me, I look a little chunky. Um, so it started back then. Um, so that was that one, my family picture. And then let's see. Then I'll go over here. I don't know when that was taken, but early on. Um, so that was probably me a couple years later, getting a little chunkier. This is me at around age 15. I was leaving it was my last day with my best friend. I was leaving to go move to Massachusetts, and I was just like so crestfallen in this picture. If you could see it up close, I was probably crying. I was just so devastated. I didn't want to leave. Um, this is fast forward. So that picture was probably like 1974. This picture's 1980. I had just got back from a trip abroad. I had never been on a diet ever. No, that's not true. I had been on a diet once in high school, but it didn't last. This was a picture that was taken after my spending 6 months in a foreign country, and my skirt was a wraparound skirt that my mother made for me. It was covered with grease stains. It was not a pretty picture. Um, then what happened was between 1980 and this picture, I actually discovered the gray sheet, and I got abstinent for the first time in a really gray sheet abstinent. That 1980 picture, I tried getting abstinent because that's when I discovered the gray sheet. I lived in Medford, Massachusetts. My first gray sheet meeting was the Saturday morning meeting in Cambridge. How I got there is a whole other story, but I got there, and that's all we need to know. And I maintained that abstinence till around the time that this picture was taken, 1989 or so. I wasn't, I was gray sheet abstinent for about 5 years, 6 maybe, and then I stopped weighing and measuring. And right around this time, I kind of stopped weighing and measuring or started getting a little loosey-goosey, but I could hold my own. Like I could maintain that thin body. I could control my eating. Um, and then about 5 years later or 4 years later, you can see that all hell broke loose in my life. I was getting up into the big numbers again. Um, it was like a very dark time for me, and um, I ended up right around the time of this picture, about 2 years later, doing a geographic cure. I was living in California at the time. I did a geographic cure to another part of California where I knew nobody. And from, let's see, what was the year on that? 1993. Oh, I went on a diet like 1990. Oops, sorry. Let me go back. Went on a diet in 1995, 96, and I kind of held my own from 2001 into 2002. I was living in Santa Barbara. And then in 2003, all hell broke loose again. No joke. One of that picture was 2002. This picture's 2003. I'm a good 60, 70 pounds heavier in a year plus time. Still a little bit heavy leaving California. That was my old friend Jerry. Um, and then this was taken around 2005. So 2003, I was kind of heavy. 2003, end of the year, I did another geographic cure. I moved back to the East Coast. I went to FA. This is the result of about 2 years on FA, which is Food Addicts Anonymous. And this was also taken at my wedding. So I got married, I got skinny, I got married, and it was a very happy time. And I thought I was cured. And then the marriage went south. And this is me when I got divorced 7 years later. So as you can see, I have a propensity to uh, pick up and put down the food. And in some of these photographs in this timeline, I held it together for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. But at the end of the day, this was probably about 2012. And I got abstinent in June of 2014. So this was kind of my bottom. I had no idea I looked like this. I thought this outfit was very pretty. And then I saw this picture and I was like, holy shit. You know, when I'm thin, I look in the mirror, I think I'm fat. When I look like this, I look in the mirror and I think I'm thin. I have no idea how big I've gotten. And then this was taken in 2024. This is my current abstinence, and I look really happy there because I had a boyfriend who I no longer have. But the good news is I still kind of look like that. So I haven't eaten over this boyfriend, which makes me very happy. So those are the pictures. And now I'm going to stop sharing and I'll tell a little bit about my story. Um, so that was my story. I could stop right now. I don't know why I started eating. My home life was, that picture was, I think my parents had a lot of pride in what they were doing. They were trying to live the American dream. They came from, a poverty-stricken place, but my father was extremely educated, so we weren't poor at all. I thought we were poor, but we really weren't, looking back. And I always felt different. I don't know if it's because of my race or because my mother had an accent, or I don't know why, but I just always felt different. And other people, my mother was definitely a compulsive overeater. My father liked his scotch, but I wouldn't call him an alcoholic. He just always needed to take the edge off, probably because of my mother. So I ate, and I loved eating. I loved eating. I I know now that what would happen is that, like, the tension and the fear and anxiety would overcome me and I would race to the food. And as I learned how to do that, I developed a life, even as a child, even as a young adult, that was really centered around food. And how do you do that? Well, you get babysitting jobs and you get waitressing jobs and you get my big career was I worked in a pharmacy from age 15 in the town that my parents had moved to in Massachusetts. I worked in a pharmacy and I stole all sorts of food. I mean, pharmacies have a lot of sugar in them, and I stole all sorts of food in addition to uh, other things, non-edible things that I kind of took home with me, like perfume and hairbrushes and magazines, and stole cigarettes. And so I made sure I had access. And there were times when I didn't have access, like when my parents moved from New Jersey to Massachusetts. I lost all my babysitting clients. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know where I was going to buy food. I didn't know where I was going to get food. And um, I'm going to try and speed this up. A little, it turns out that I was going around the new neighborhood on a bicycle, and I saw a girl on a swing in her front yard, and I was like, she's going to be my victim. I'm going to babysit for her. And I did. And there was this Italian family from Massachusetts, and they just had, the Italians in Massachusetts, they have tons of food in their houses, tons. And it was really good stuff. So I was always over there eating. And then, between the drugstore and the babysitting, I just ate my way through high school. There's a lot of stress going on in my home. I had an older brother who was a Vietnam War vet who was basically suicidal, and he's 14 years older than me. He's now deceased. He just died a couple of years ago, but he was 14 years older than me, and my mother felt that he couldn't live on his own anymore, and she brought him to live with us, and he was really scary, and so I just had to stay out of the house and find my food and just kind of knock myself out as often as possible.
Sheila, you have 5 minutes left.
Thank you. I did manage to go off to college. I did manage to graduate from college. Uh, I was very terrified when I got there. I put myself on a diet. It worked a little bit. Then I went on that overseas trip where I'm wearing the wraparound skirt, thinking that that was going to be a cure. It wasn't a cure. I found the gray sheet. I was part of that early enthusiasm, euphoria, even when the Saturday morning meeting was just packed with people. And I was a part of that enthusiasm. It was like one big party. It's the only way I can describe it. It was a party without food and alcohol. And we went every Saturday morning and we could not wait to see each other and catch up. And they had to like they give us a break and they just have like time to get back to the meeting time. We didn't want to stop talking to each other and relating, and it was such a happy time. And so I decided to move off to California, and I went off with my gray sheet, and then 18 years later I came back looking like I looked. And it's just I never married, I never had kids. I had a very good profession that I got that I trained for in the very first time I got abstinent. And that was the only thing that was a stable thing in my life. But then, whenever the jobs got sour, I started eating again. Work is called work because it's work. And I would always sort of like give it a reboot, move to a new city, get another job. And I'd go to the new job and I'd lose the weight and find new friends and maybe a boyfriend. And then after, I don't know, at some amount of time, I'd pick up and I'd just go back down the rabbit hole. And it just happened over and over and over again until I turned, let's see, I'll be 66 in August. So I was 55 years old when I came back. And like there was nothing going on in my life. I was living in a neighborhood in New York that I didn't like because I hadn't done any research, because I always just did what I did without even thinking about anything, because I was trying to escape from my problems. And I was starting to feel the physical repercussions from being heavy. And I'd never had that before up until my 50s. And like I said, I found myself in New York, and I even found the subway stairs hard to get up. I was starting to feel all that. And I swore I was never going to go back to the gray sheet. I would do anything but the gray sheet. Why I even thought that, I don't know, because my disease is so strong. It told me not to go back to the thing that was going to help me. That's how strong my disease is. It wants me to fail. It wants me to sabotage, and it wants me to be miserable. That's what my disease is. Um, I went to a doctor to see about my knees. I thought they were going to be on their way out. He was willing to do two knee replacements at the same time. And I I was I wasn't somebody with a strong social safety net. I had some family, but they didn't live in New York. And all I could think of was, if I go to get knee surgery, who's going to help me? Like, I didn't know anybody in New York City. It was really pretty sad. So, I got abstinent, and I think a lot of you know me. I've been living here in New York for since 2012. My life's a lot better. I mean, you've seen the inside of my apartment. I had some things that I liked to do when I was eating, as I was growing up, when I was a young adult, and I've tried to get back. I'm sitting here struggling, not really struggling, but I am researching and trying to figure out a day at a time
1 minute.
what I want my life to be like and look like for whatever time I have left. And it gives me so much hope that I I'm in charge of my own destiny now, where before the food was in charge of my destiny. It told me who to hang out with, what to do with my free time, what job to have, what city to live in. It told me, it just dragged me around by the nose. And now I have to get up every day, and it's not always easy. And I have to say, what does my higher power want from me? What do I want? What do I like? What do I don't like? Um, and it's hard. I mean, I retired and I thought I was going to do a bunch of stuff, and I've been retired now for a couple of years, and I'm finding that what I thought I was going to do, I'm not really sure I really want to do it. And so I get to
Time,
think about, thank you. I get to think about what I'm going to do with each 24-hour that I have. And it's because I'm not eating, and it's truly a gift. So, my apologies to anybody else that's heard me this month. I know I've spoken in a bunch of different places, but it always sounds different, and it's your meeting, and thank you.